Before the court of Eridon, she was shattered. The words hung in the vast throne hall like a curse, carried on gasps and silences. Lady Seraphina Vale knelt before the dais, her hands bound in silk cords, her face pale but unflinching. The torches hissed in the damp air. Above her, King Alaric Deveron's gaze burned with the fury of a man betrayed, or a man terrified to feel. "Confess," the Chancellor's voice echoed. "Confess that you bewitched our sovereign." Seraphina lifted her chin. "I bewitched no one. Love is not a spell, my lord." Her voice trembled, but her eyes were clear. The nobles whispered, hungry for scandal. Alaric's hand clenched around the golden armrest of his throne until his knuckles whitened. She had healed his soldiers, calmed his nightmares, touched him as no one dared, and in doing so, had become his weakness. Now his council demanded strength. They wanted a king without a heart. When he spoke, his tone was thunder. "You speak of love as if it absolves deceit. You came from nothing, seeking a crown you never earned." Seraphina's breath caught. "You know that is not true. I know only that since you came, my judgment falters and my kingdom decays." He rose, every inch the sovereign the court expected, every inch the man she loved and could no longer reach. "Before all who stand here, I sever every bond between us. You are banished from Eridon under pain of death." The words struck her harder than any blow. The pendant she had given him, a small crystal heart, glimmered against his chest. He tore it free and flung it onto the marble floor. It shattered, scattering light like broken promises. For a moment, no one breathed. Seraphina bowed her head. "Then may your kingdom know the peace your heart never will." She turned as guards seized her arms. Alaric watched her go, every step pulling something vital from his chest. The great doors closed behind her, and silence pressed upon the hall until even the torches seemed to dim. That night, thunder devoured the horizon. Weeks passed. The fields of Eridon withered under unending rain. Cattle grew sick. The rivers ran black. Whispers spread that the king had cursed himself. In his chambers, Alaric dreamt of her, standing barefoot in the storm, her eyes full of sorrow. He awoke with her name on his lips and the taste of ash in his mouth. The Dowager Queen found him pacing before dawn. "You loved a good woman," she said quietly, "and you made her a ghost. She deceived me. She made you human." Her gaze softened. "The land remembers what we destroy." He dismissed her, but the words lingered like smoke. Beyond the city walls, Seraphina lived in exile among peasants who still whispered her name with reverence. She mended their wounds, their crops, their faith. Yet each night, she felt the distance between them, a silence deeper than the forest that sheltered her. One evening, as she gathered herbs by moonlight, the wind shifted. She froze. A falcon swooped from the darkness, bearing a scroll sealed with the royal crest. Her heart stilled as she broke it open. "Return. The kingdom is dying." She hesitated only a moment. "No one summons me anymore," she whispered, but her hands trembled. She knew the writing was not his. It was his mother's. Seraphina returned under a cloak, hidden among the wagons entering the city. Eridon was a shadow of itself. Streets deserted, fountains dry. The scent of decay hung in the air. She found refuge in an old chapel, tending to fevered children and soldiers too weak to stand. It was there that fate betrayed her once more. He entered the chapel unannounced. For a heartbeat, she thought she was dreaming. His armor was tarnished, his eyes hollow. "You," he said, disbelief threading through his anger. "You dare walk these halls again. I came to heal your people, not to beg your mercy." She faced him, steady. "Someone had to save what you had not." He stepped closer. "You left me to rule alone. You sent me away," she said simply. Silence swelled between them, thick with all that had been unsaid. He reached for her, then stopped, as though afraid the touch would burn him. "Every night I see you," he murmured. "Every night, I wake with this mark." He turned his palm. A faint crimson light pulsed beneath the skin, shaped like the pendant she'd once given him. Seraphina's breath hitched. It's the heartbind. You feel what you deny. He stared at her, the truth dawning like pain. Before he could speak, a distant shout shattered the moment. The chapel doors burst open, soldiers rushing in, panic on their faces. The wells. They're poisoned. The nobles are dying. Seraphina's basket fell from her hands. Who would? But Alaric already knew. Lord Cain. The serpent he'd trusted more than his own heart. He turned to her, voice low and urgent. This is your doing? She met his gaze. No, my king. This is your kingdom's truth revealing itself. Their eyes locked, and for the first time since that terrible day, he saw not defiance but sorrow, a mirror of his own. She took a step toward him. You can still save it, but not alone. Rain began to fall, heavy and relentless, drumming against the chapel roof. In the flicker of lightning, she looked like something unearthly, light and shadow in one breath. Alaric's chest ached with a longing he no longer knew how to name. Before he could answer, the ground trembled beneath them. A roar echoed through the city. Explosions, screams. The scent of burning oil filled the air. He grabbed her hand, pulling her close. Stay behind me. For an instant, the world dissolved into smoke and chaos. Yet even as debris rained down and the soldiers shouted outside, Seraphina's fingers clung to his. Her pulse beat against his skin, fierce and alive. When the tremors ceased, she whispered, almost against his chest, "This is only the beginning." Alaric looked down at her, the woman he had destroyed, the woman now standing unbroken beside him, and something inside him cracked. Outside, the bells of Eridon tolled through the storm. Within the ruined chapel, the mark on his palm flared like fire. He met her gaze, realization. The first scream tore through the corridors like the sound of fate itself. The palace was burning, not in flames, but in betrayal. Alaric ran through the smoke-choked halls, his sword slick with blood that was not his own. Every echo carried panic, every shadow whispered treason. At the heart of it all stood Lord Cain, calm as a viper, surrounded by men who once swore loyalty to their king. "Lay down your crown, Alaric," Cain said, his voice steady over the chaos. "The people are dying, and the gods have turned their backs on you. You poisoned them," Alaric spat, advancing, "and now you dare speak of gods." "Not I, my king. You did, when you cast out the one who was chosen for you." Cain's eyes gleamed. "The curse began with your pride." From behind the guards, Seraphina stepped forward, her face pale but resolute. She had been dragged here, her wrists bound again, her hair tangled from the struggle. "He wants your throne, Alaric. Don't give him your soul, too." Cain laughed, drawing his blade. "How touching. The witch still believes she matters." He pressed the blade against her throat. "One word, Majesty, and her blood stains your marble floors." Alaric froze. The hall swam with the noise of clashing steel and distant cries, but for him, the world narrowed to her frightened eyes and the tremor in her voice when she whispered, "Don't kneel for me." He took one step forward, then another. The crown slipped from his head, rolling across the floor until it struck the base of a throne. "If her life buys your victory," he said softly, "then I surrender." The words silenced the hall. Every soldier turned, stunned. Seraphina shook her head, tears breaking loose. "No, don't." But he went down on one knee, sword laid before him, his voice breaking for the first time since his coronation. "I once cast her away before this court. I'll not lose her again." Cain's smile widened. The mighty Alpha King, brought low by a healer. As he raised his blade, the air shifted. A pulse of unseen energy rippled through the hall, rattling windows, bending torchlight. The mark on Alaric's palm burned, light bleeding from his skin. Seraphina gasped, and for a heartbeat, the world seemed to breathe through her. The glow spread between them. One heart, one curse, one reckoning. "You cannot kill what is bound by truth," she whispered. Cain lunged. Alaric moved instinctively, shielding her, but the prophecy had always demanded a price. Seraphina's body twisted, stepping between them, the blade sinking into her side before Alaric could stop it. Her gasp was soft, almost peaceful. "Seraphina, no." She reached for his face, her fingers leaving faint streaks of red on his cheek. "You kneel to save love, not to lose it." Her voice faltered, her breath shallow. "The curse ends when pride dies." The light flared, engulfing them. The soldiers dropped their weapons as wind roared through the hall, scattering banners and ashes. Cain staggered back, screaming as the radiance touched him. His skin blistered, his voice turned to smoke. When the brilliance faded, only silence remained, and the faint scent of rain. Seraphina collapsed into Alaric's arms, her blood warm against his hands. "Stay with me," he pleaded. "You've saved enough lives, save mine now." She smiled faintly. "Kings cannot be saved, Alaric. Only redeemed." He pressed his forehead to hers, the heat of her fading pulse anchoring him to the moment. Around them, the city bells began to toll, a deep, mournful sound that seemed to echo through time. Her eyes fluttered shut. "Seraphina," he whispered, "if there's mercy left in this cursed world, take me with you." But life, cruel and kind in equal measure, refused. The mark on his palm dimmed, leaving only the faintest scar. She was gone. For a long time, Alaric did not move. The soldiers knelt, one by one, until the hall was filled with silence and bowed heads. When he finally rose, he carried her in his arms through the open gates of the palace, into the dawn that broke like a wound across the horizon. Days passed before the kingdom began to heal. The poisoned wells ran clear. The rain ceased. The people whispered that their king had been forgiven, though none could say by whom. Alaric spent those days in the chamber where she once mended his fever, sitting beside her still form, speaking softly into the quiet as if she could still hear. "I thought strength meant never kneeling," he said one evening. "But I see now it means knowing when to fall." That night, the wind changed. A faint warmth brushed against his cheek, like a sigh. When he turned, the crystal pendant, once shattered, lay whole upon the table. Its light pulsed gently, as though breathing. He took it in his hand, closing his eyes. For the first time in years, the ache in his chest eased. The next morning, he walked to the chapel she had rebuilt in secret and laid the pendant upon the altar. The sun spilled through the stained glass, painting his face in rose and gold. Behind him, the dowager queen entered quietly. "She would have been proud," she said. He smiled faintly. "She is." The queen touched his shoulder. "And what of you, my son? Will you ever forgive yourself?" He looked at his palm. The faint scar glimmered like a thread of light. "I don't think forgiveness is what she wanted. Only remembrance." He left the chapel doors open that day, letting the people see their king without his crown, without armor, just a man, humbled by love. The children brought flowers to lay at the altar. The sick came for blessings. They called the place the sanctuary of the heartbound. That night, as the stars spread over Eridon, Alaric stood on the palace balcony, wind tugging at his cloak. Somewhere beyond the river, a soft voice seemed to echo, neither dream nor memory, but something in between. "Your heart is free now, my king. Use it well." He smiled into the darkness, the ache returning only as a whisper. "Always," he said. "A single bee,